Remarkable delivery man unexpectedly transforms lost girl's life. Discover how their paths crossed. Emily sat on the cracked, weathered steps of her apartment complex, the afternoon sun casting long shadows across the concrete. She felt like an invisible line in a cracked sidewalk, barely noticeable but desperately present. The walls of her small, cramped home echoed with her mother's worries, harsh whispers about bills and broken dreams, and her own uncertainty hung in the air like dust motes caught in the sunlight. School had become a stage where insecurities flourished under the cruel spotlight of judgment, and each day chipped away at her spirit. She was a ghost in her own life, unseen and unheard, drowning in a sea of unfulfilled expectations. Suddenly, the familiar sound of a rumbling engine interrupted her melancholy. A bright yellow delivery truck pulled up, its engine sputtering to a halt like the breath she had been holding. Out stepped Charlie, the delivery man, with an infectious smile that felt like a breath of fresh air in her smothered world. He had always looked out of place, like a sunflower in a field of grass, and for a moment all her sadness faded into the background as she caught his eye. But when he noticed the tears streaking down her cheeks, her heart constricted, battling a mix of embarrassment and an uninvited sense of relief. As the weeks passed, their accidental encounters blossomed into something unexpected. Charlie, with the patience of someone who had seen the world's depths, coaxed her into picking up a paintbrush. "Art is a refuge," he told her one afternoon, his hands gesturing wildly as they sat together on the steps. "It's a chance to find your voice." Emily found herself hesitating on the brink of possibility. Painting felt like a kaleidoscope through which she could burst free from her mundane life. Yet doubt crept in. Could she truly embrace this passion when it felt like a betrayal to her struggling mother? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. The conflict within her grew more tangled as she learned of a prestigious scholarship for art students. It flickered in her mind like a distant beacon, hopeful but precarious. She lay awake at night, trapped in a maze of thoughts. What if this was her only chance? Yet the thought of pursuing her dreams collided with a face that had etched lines of stress and exhaustion from years of trying to hold their family together. Torn, she dissolved into anxiety. Could she truly fly when her mother needed her so desperately grounded? The guilt coiled around her, tightening with every stroke of encouragement from Charlie. As her first gallery showing approached, the anticipation was laced with dread. What if no one understood her? Each brushstroke felt like a public confession, revealing the raw struggle of her journey. And yet, right before the unveiling, her mother arrived, doubt painted across her face like a somber palette. Could she accept her daughter's passion without fear? Emily's heart raced, caught between the desire for independence and the suffocating loyalty she felt to her family. With everything pushing her to a breaking point, Emily found herself at a crossroads. Would she shatter the delicate balance of home life for a chance at personal success? The fear clung to her like a weight. All she wanted was to not only be seen, but to soar. What path would she choose, as everything she believed hung precariously in the balance? Emily stood before the canvas, her hands trembling with uncertainty, paintbrush poised halfway to the stark white surface. The gallery around her buzzed gently with energy, but all she could hear was the thunderous rhythm of her own heart, drowning out the laughter and casual conversations of art enthusiasts. With every passing second, the doubts whispered louder in her mind, clawing at her resolve. Was she truly ready? Would anyone even care about her story, her art? Charlie had always been there to support her, his faith in her talent unwavering. Yet, as her mother's tense expression filled her thoughts, a cold grip of fear encased her heart. What if this isn't enough? The voice in her head questioned. This moment, so potent and charged with possibility, was unmistakably weighted with expectation. Instinctively, she bit her lip, an old habit ignited by unease. She couldn't shake the image of her mother struggling, the job that took up far too many hours, and the bills stacked like bricks on their coffee table. The notion of pursuing art gnawed at her conscience like a wild animal unleashed. Could her pursuit of passion become a betrayal to the woman who had sacrificed so much? She felt suspended between two worlds, the undeniable call of her art and the unyielding commitments to her family. With frantic brushstrokes, she swirled a rich cerulean and vibrant orange together,
the colors clashing like the forces within her. The canvas reflected her confusion, her yearning for a voice and an identity outside the shadows of her home. Here she could articulate the chaos of her emotions, the battles fought every day beneath the surface, the joy and despair intertwined like threads in a fabric of her making. As she stood, a soft voice broke through her revelation. "Emily, your work is incredible," said Charlie, moving closer, his presence like an anchor. The sunlight streaming through the gallery windows showcased his genuine admiration, enveloping them in warmth.
"You've captured the struggles and beauty of life in a way that makes you impossible to ignore." His confidence ignited a flicker of determination within her. Yet the shadow of apprehension loomed large. "But what if it's not good enough?" she replied, her voice cracking. "What if they see through me? The doubt, the fear. It's all I am." Understanding flickered in Charlie's eyes, and he took a moment to pause before responding. "Art isn't about perfection. It's about authenticity. If you reflect who you are and what you feel, it will resonate. Trust that." He stepped back, giving her space to breathe, to contemplate his words. The weight of expectation didn't lift entirely, but it shifted, transformed. Perhaps this was more than just about her. She thought of her mother, the quiet resilience that had always pushed her forward, sacrificed her own aspirations. If she could embrace these moments, this art, perhaps it wouldn't be a betrayal, but a legacy passed down, a message that chasing dreams was worth any burden. With a deep breath, Emily turned back to her canvas, her fear melding into determination. Each stroke became a cathartic release, shedding layers of doubt, revealing vibrant hues of mischief and amazement. As she painted, a dialogue opened within her. Each brushstroke became a question, a confrontation with her own fears and desires. "What if this brings me closer to myself and to my mother?" she mused, as colors burst forth, creating dizzying shapes and forms. But even as her spirit lifted, the shadows of uncertainty loomed at the edges. The moment of truth was just ahead, the unveiling. Would her mother embrace this new facet of Emily, or recoil at the thought of change? The stakes felt higher than ever. She needed to confront these doubts, not just for herself, but for the dream she dared to pursue. As the time ticked closer for the gallery doors to swing open, Emily felt the weight of her choices settle into something distinct. She wouldn't just show her art, she would reveal her soul. And then, a familiar voice called from the back, full of confusion mixed with disapproval. "Emily, what are you doing?" Turning, her heart pounded, unsettled. There stood her mother, eyes wide with disbelief, waiting for an answer that might forever change everything. Emily's breath caught in her throat, a mix of trepidation and a fierce determination flaring within her. Her mother's presence propelled her back to that painful past, the long hours spent working overtime, the frowns etched into her brow, the dreams sacrificed at the altar of necessity. She opened her mouth, but the words fled, tangled in her throat. "Mom, The brush quivered in her hand as the realities of her world dug deeper. "Is this what you want? To embarrass yourself? To waste your time here?" The simmering concern in her mother's voice pierced through the noise of the gallery, escalating the tension. Emily felt exposed as eyes turned to them. In that moment, she sensed a chasm between whom she had always been and who she could potentially become. Her mother's furrowed brow spoke of fear, but it also communicated disappointment, a disappointment directed not just at Emily, but at what pursuing art might mean for them both. "I'm not wasting my time," Emily spoke with a sudden clarity, her heart thrumming loudly in defiance. "This is my art, Mom. It's my life. You taught me to follow my dreams." "Dreams don't pay the bills, Emily." Her mother's tone was sharp, a defensive wall constructed from years of struggle. There was a flicker of something deeper in her eyes, but Emily couldn't pinpoint it through the haze of confusion. "But what if this is worth something?" She felt the fervor rising, daring to unearth the courage beyond her fear. "What if it goes beyond just me? What if it inspires others?" A beat passed, and the air thickened with a silence that felt electric. Emily could see her mother's internal conflict flickering, the shadows of worry colliding with the desire to let her daughter spread her wings. Then something strange happened, a shift within her mother's demeanor. "It's not that simple," her mother replied, but the edge in her voice softened. "You think it's easy for me to see you throwing yourself into something so uncertain?" The world around them faded away as Emily focused intently on her mother. The familiarity of their conversations receded, replaced by a somber truth. Beneath the clouds of anxiety, there existed an unspoken bond of shared ambition,
and the weight of expectations, both self-imposed and inherited. Let me show you why it matters. For the first time, Emily felt a sense of empowerment coursing through her, replacing that lingering dread. Art is about connection. It's not an escape, but a bridge. If I don't pursue this, I might lose myself completely. I don't want to be trapped. I want to be free. Her mother's expression shifted again, a flicker of recognition surfacing. Perhaps the message was as much for Emily as it was for her. In that moment, Emily envisioned a future where both she and her mother could thrive amidst the uncertainties. When they both took silent breaths, the weight of expectation simmered down to a steady pulse. Emily's paintbrush hovered gently over the canvas. She could almost feel her mother's presence intertwined within the colors, their shared hopes threading through the strokes. "Will you stand with me, Mom?" The vulnerability in Emily's voice surprised even herself. "Will you watch me unfold and redefine what we thought was possible?" The gallery softening around them seemed to fade into the background once more, and for a heartbeat, her mother's hesitant smile appeared. "I suppose I might have to," she replied. Her gaze shifted to the vibrant chaos on the canvas, a reflection of both battle and beauty.
Yet, before Emily could bask in this fragile moment of acceptance, her mother's gaze darted away, an unsettled anxiety flickering back. "It's about how you survive, Emily. Dreaming won't feed us." The confrontation stabbed the air like a sharp knife, but instead of retreating, Emily leaned in, determined to tackle that challenge head-on. She had a chance to change the narrative, her own narrative. What if she could redefine survival in a way that combined art and family, dreams and responsibility? "No, it doesn't," she finally found the words, as courage coalesced into clarity. "But maybe it's a foundation we can build together. What if my success helps our family instead of tearing us apart?" Then, as determination surged anew, locking her gaze on her mother, the realization landed. She wouldn't just fight for herself. She was fighting for her future, for a purpose larger than simply existing. Just as one layered stroke of pigment transformed into another on the canvas, she vowed to reshape her life into something both vibrant and improbable. However, her mother remained silent, weighing the fraught exchange, the walls shifting. But a challenge loomed larger. This unveiling was just as much about understanding the depths of support as it was an artistic revelation. What path would they walk down together, clashing with uncertainty and fear? As Emily turned back to the canvas, she faced a fresh question. Would her mother still support this leap into the unknown, or would shadows of doubt threaten to engulf their dreams? The space between them remained charged with potential, yet fragile, poised at the edge of a precipice. Emily's breath steadied as her resolve solidified. She dipped her brush in bold crimson and struck it against the canvas with a fierce intention. Each stroke became an act of rebellion, a declaration that she had the right not just to exist, but to create and inspire. The weight of her mother's skepticism mingled with her own fears, yet a new clarity began to form within the chaos of color. People continued to mill around the gallery, laughing and chatting, oblivious to the battle raging at the center of it all. Emily paused, allowing herself a moment of vulnerability as her heart raced. The thought of turning back, of sacrificing her passion, was suffocating. She wouldn't, no, she couldn't, let that happen any longer. "Mom," the softness in her tone caught her mother's attention as it cut through the disarray of Emily's emotions. "I need you to understand what this means for me." Her voice climbed, a mix of defiance and yearning, striving to reach that hesitancy in her mother's gaze. Her mother looked down, weighing the words, and Emily recognized that fear still flickered behind the hardened exterior. "Art isn't just a hobby," she pressed. "For me, it's a lifeline. If I hide from this, I'm risking a part of myself that's already been lost."
The brush stilled in her hand, suspended over the canvas like a pause before a leap. Her mother's sigh, heavy and resigned, hung in the air. "You don't understand." The words escaped in a rush, almost frantic. "You think this is easy for me? To watch you throw yourself into the possibility of failing? To make choices I couldn't ever dream of?" Grappling with her mother's fear, Emily felt the full weight of her responsibility. It wasn't just about her. It was about nurturing a fragile bridge built on years of sacrifices and dreams, both shared and suppressed. "Then let me show you how it's done," Emily offered, a surprising confidence surging within her. The thought struck her unexpectedly. Could her art not only save her, but bridge the gap between them? "Help me. Come to my shows. Support me, and I'll prove that this can be something more than just a fantasy." A moment passed, heavy and contemplative, as Emily's heart beat in sync with the rapid pulse of colors swirling on the canvas. Her mother's demeanor finally softened, the fierce lines of her expressions blurring as they searched for some understanding. "I just want you to be safe, to be happy," she whispered, and again Emily caught the fragility beneath her mother's fierce facade. "Happy doesn't come without risk," Emily stated firmly. "I'm ready to take it. I won't be afraid of what's ahead. I'll learn and grow from it. You taught me that, didn't you?" Her mother hesitated, her brow etched in thought. The vulnerability in Emily's eyes, the raw defensiveness wrapped in brightness, timidly redirected the severity of their conversation. Could this truly be a moment of change? Gradually, an ember of acceptance ignited, but shadows of doubt remained. Emily could sense her mother wrestling with the fear of the unknown, a tug of war against a lifetime of pragmatism and logic. The silence wrestled heavily, yet it was alive. It had the potential to build or destroy. With each movement of her brush, each layer that emerged on the canvas, Emily felt a swell of purpose infuse her being. Perhaps art was more complex than she realized. Perhaps it was the foundation for this long-brewing clash of perspectives. "Let's start small," she proposed, her voice steady. "Come see my next piece before it goes public. You'll see, there's transformation happening, and together we can nurture it into something profound." The offer hung in the air, both fragile and bold, encapsulating the essence of what they were trying to create. A partnership, a pact born from love and fear alike, poised for revolution. Would her mother accept this invitation to witness Emily's evolution, or would the comfort of doubt continue to anchor her? As she returned to her canvas, a flickering light ignited within. For the first time, Emily dared to envision her art as the catalyst for not just her own transformation, but for a healing reconciliation with her mother, a renewed opportunity to intertwine dreams with generational responsibilities.
Yet, as the vivid colors began to bloom together, painting a scene of unyielding hope, Emily knew the fight wasn't over. It had only just begun. The echo of her mother's previous doubts taunted the edges of her resolve, intertwining fear with the promise of success. But would this art and the bond between them be enough to withstand the pressures of the world outside? The external and internal conflicts loomed large. She had to prepare, focus, and grow. Soon, she would discover if her art could manifest more than just a canvas. Could it create a path back to her mother's heart? The next question surged, threatening to shatter her delicate hope once more. Would she be strong enough to reveal not only her art, but herself fully, both as creator and daughter, in the face of what lay ahead? Emily stepped back from her canvas, beads of sweat glistening on her brow, mixed with the residue of paint on her hands. The vibrant colors danced under the gallery lights, a testament to her struggle and passion. With each brushstroke, the uncertainty that had plagued her began to ebb. She started to envision her future as one filled not just with art, but with a newfound strength to confront the fears that paralyzed her. The following days came with an urgency she hadn't experienced before. Emily immersed herself in creating, every piece becoming an unfolding narrative of her journey. Yet deep inside her, a restless energy churned, a yearning for validation beyond her creations. She sought not just to be seen as an artist, but as someone capable of embracing the challenges that life had thrown her way. As the opening for her next piece approached, the specter of her mother's skepticism loomed. Would her mother attend? Would she finally bridge the gap of misunderstanding? Emily aligned her calendar with rehearsals, sketching far more than just her art. She was drafting a strategy to reclaim her self-worth. She felt the weight of her own expectations pulling her down. But it wasn't only her mother's opinion that gnawed at her. The voice of doubt was insidious, whispering critiques of her capabilities, often disguised as practicality. Shouldn't she just pursue something more stable, something with a safer outcome? Emily wanted to ignore that voice, to drown it out with strokes of red and blue on her canvas. Painting became not just an escape, but a battleground where she fought against the echo of inadequacy. In an attempt to consolidate her inner turmoil, Emily enrolled in a local art workshop. The decision ignited a flicker of excitement. Surrounded by kindred spirits, she embraced collaborative opportunities. Through demonstration, feedback, and conversation, she began to explore not only her techniques, but the narratives behind each piece. Perhaps this, she thought, was a step towards stepping beyond her mother's expectations, finding her own voice distinctively. The first workshop session was disorienting. Other participants brought their unique styles, confidence radiating from their brushstrokes. As she absorbed their creative energies, a realization struck her, like the echo of a bell tolling, a desire to confront the discomfort of comparison. Each artist had their story. They weren't merely competitors, but a collective forging growth through vulnerability. At one point, the instructor prompted everyone to share the intentions behind their work. As she hesitated, her heart quickening in her chest, Emily felt the challenge surge within her, forcing her to confront the question she had been avoiding. What was her true intention behind creating? She opened her mouth, the words halting initially, forcing their way out as a cascade of therapeutic honesty. I create to confront who I am and who I'm afraid to become. Gasps echoed within the room, and a warm camaraderie enveloped her. When they applauded her vulnerability, Emily recognized a burgeoning strength. Perhaps revealing her truth wasn't just an act of bravery, it was also a form of release. It bound her not just to her canvas, but to the other artists who equally bore their hearts in the court of creativity. With renewed vigor, she returned home, affixed with a sharpened resolve. She needed to share this experience with her mother. Could the knowledge that she wasn't alone in her struggles be the first brick laid in rebuilding that cracked bridge between them? That evening, she picked up her phone, poised to extend the invitation once more, rooted more firmly in her purpose. But as she dialed the number, a stinging knot ensnared her throat. What if her mother dismissed this newfound passion? In that instant of apprehension, the voice of self-doubt crescendoed, insisting she was once again overreaching. She hesitated, her finger hovering over the call button. Just then, a thought shattered her uncertainty. What if she wasn't just sharing her art, but her evolving self? Closing her eyes, Emily pressed the button. "Mom, you need to see this. It's finally coming together," she breathed into the phone. A pause filled with pregnant silence loomed before her mother responded. Would Emily's leap of faith be met with acceptance, or was she about to face another wave of rejection? The resolution to share blossoming triumph fused with a dread that tightened her chest. She was about to find out just how much of herself she could reveal. As the phone rang, she wondered, was this call the turning point for her art and her relationship with her mother? Would they both be able to bridge the chasm that had stifled connection for so long? Hope collided with fear, leaving Emily at the threshold another pivotal moment. The moment a cool voice cut through the silence, Emily felt a sensation both grounding and undeniable. "I'm here, Emily. What's going on?" The timbre of her mother's voice bore both warmth and caution.
The line was adrift with an unfamiliar humility, one that implied an opening, an albeit tentative bridge. "Mom, I want you to come see my new piece. It's important to me," she said, victory punctuating her words against the grip of apprehension. She had decided to breach the chasm, and even though the waters below were choppy, she clung to hope. What she craved was not only her mother's presence, but an affirmation, the validation she had long sought, which lingered like a mirage just out of reach. "Yes, I received the invitation. There was a brief pause, laden with expectation. "I'll come, Emily." In that exchange, a light flickered within her, yet with it came a wave of insecurities, fear clawing at her determination. Would one visit draw her mother closer, or simply reinforce the separation that echoed through years of misunderstanding? An instinct compelled her to prepare herself for the moment she would stand before her canvas and voice her truth before the very person who had turned art into a battleground. The next few days morphed into a frenetic blend of anticipation and dread. She painted with fervor, channeling every emotion as if the very brush had become an extension of her will. Each stroke was a conversation with herself, some whispers of doubt, others declarations of defiance, underscored by a potent longing for recognition. This time, her art was not just an extension of herself, it was a call to her mother, the message carving pathways through silence. But as she stood holding a brush, her hand trembled. The canvas laid before her seemed larger than life, an embodiment of everything she needed to articulate. While colors streaked across its surface, Emily wrestled with an internal cacophony. What if she sees beyond my art? What if she sees me for who I truly am? Is that what I want? These questions spiraled in her mind even as she painted, making her second-guess every decision. Emily had not only to prepare her art, she needed to prepare her heart to confront what might come next. The concept of being truly seen was intoxicating, yet terrifying.
The workshop sessions continued to fill her with community and critique. Interaction led to introspection, and each artist's support felt like an invisible net beneath her, catching every falter. They pushed her toward exploration, igniting a fierce desire to unearth those locked sections of her psyche. One moment resonated particularly. During a group discussion, a fellow artist spoke about their personal experiences of rejection while trying to pursue their dreams. For the first time, Emily articulated her feelings. Rejection has been a constant shadow in my life. It lingers, sometimes more than I realize. As she ventured deeper into her reflections, she discovered how much her fear of rejection mirrored her relationship with her mother. It became clear, her fear was not just of her art, but of herself.
Reclaiming her worth meant confronting her mother's scrutiny along with her own insecurities. Invigorated by this realization, she began to document her thoughts, breathing life into a post-creation ritual where painting merged with journaling. Each word written became a step towards clarity, delineating not only her artistic aspirations, but also the raw emotions intertwined with familial expectations. Days passed, and the exhibit loomed closer, the urgency magnifying the stakes. Emily was on the verge of transformation, but she understood that transformation sometimes required confrontation. The impending visit prompted her to strategize. Her art needed to reflect not merely what she felt, but also what she dared to say. She felt the necessity to invite her mother into the very process of her evolution. As the night before the opening drew near, Emily wrestled with the enormity of her intentions. The canvas was no longer just colors bound to fabric. It was a representation of her journey, a mosaic of broken pieces finally consolidating into something resilient. The next morning, with a heavy heart yet an unwavering spirit, she prepared for what felt like a crucible, both her art's unveiling and the revelation of her vulnerability. Would her artistic voice resonate with her mother? She closed her eyes, breathing deeply through the unease. "It's time," she whispered to herself, steadied by the prospect of truth. The moment of truth awaited, but an internal cacophony remained, persistently teasing her. Did she have the strength to stand and deliver? Would her art reach her mother in a way that words could not? Fingers trembling, she opened the door to the gallery, ready to step into a world pulsating with possibility and emotional stakes higher than ever before. As she gazed at the canvas, a new fear surfaced. What would she discover about herself through this exchange? What revelations lay beneath the surface, waiting to surface in front of her mother? The answers awaited in this precarious juncture, where art and reality confronted each other for the first time. As the gallery bustled with a chorus of murmurs and excited laughter, each sound felt like a drumbeat amplifying the tempest within Emily. She positioned herself in front of her canvas, the heartbeat of her emotions fueling the vibrant amalgamation of colors. It stood, bold and alive, but also rendered vulnerable against the backdrop of the observed. For a moment, she found solace in isolation. The crowd felt both close and infinitely far away, each face reflected in the canvas, yet none as important as the one she sought, her mother. Time slipped away, the air thick with expectation, as she plastered a smile on her face. Yet the tighter her grip on her composure, the more pronounced her doubts became. The more she tried to prepare herself, the more unprepared she felt. What if the light that flickered in her mother's voice was merely a momentary spark, quickly fading into familiar shadows? Each second stretched, a palpable tension binding her to the present. She glanced at her watch. Minutes until her mother would arrive. Would she approach with the severity of a judge, or embrace her like a long-lost friend? Uncertainty clawed at her stomach, a vicious loop of scenarios playing out in her mind. To combat the rising tide of fears, Emily steeled herself, recalling the artist circle that had silently cheered on her transformation. The conversations, the raw confessions shared during workshop sessions, echoing in the background. "Rejection has many faces, but so does resilience," she murmured, affirming her new identity. This was not just about her art. It was about her journey, steeped in self-discovery and emotional excavation. As the doors swung open, Emily held her breath. Her heart raced as she recognized the familiar silhouette of her mother against the thrumming crowd. A wave of nostalgia washed over her. The memories of their strained relationship shimmered like a mirage at the edges of her consciousness.
But she would not let that flood of sentiment drown her resolve. This moment was years in the making, and she needed to make it count. Drawing a deep breath, she pushed past her instincts, longing to shield herself, and sought connection instead. The world seemed to fade as eyes met, their 4-year silence suddenly reverberating in the space between them. "Emily," her mother said, equal parts hesitant and curious. "Mom," she replied, her voice steady though her insides quaked. "Come look." As her mother stepped forward to examine the canvas, a strange cocktail of fear and hope twisted within Emily. What would she see? Would she see past the brushstrokes to the truth that lay beneath? Colors danced under the gallery lights, the deeper shades representing Emily's struggles, and the lighter strokes symbolizing moments and memories of joy. An amalgamation of fear, vulnerability, and strength were woven into the very fabric of the piece. It was more than a painting. It was a reflection of her spirit, and she longed for her mother to see that. Emily's mother tilted her head slightly, gaze transfixed on the canvas, searching for meaning. "I didn't realize." "Didn't realize what?" Emily pressed, her voice tinged with urgency. It's beautiful, but it's more than that. It feels honest," she finally said, her voice cracking slightly. The moment dripped with significance, a potential pivot point after years of emotional gridlock. Emily hesitated, wanting to share the depths of her creations, to pull her mother into the process of her evolution. To hold space for her vulnerabilities was daunting yet liberating. "Mom, this is my journey. Every color, every stroke, they tell our story, even the difficult parts."
As the words left her lips, a stillness filled the space, a tenuous connection billowing around them, testing the waters of their connection. Emily felt a surge of determination amid the uncertainty. She was reclaiming her narrative. Standing beneath the flickering gallery lights, Emily confronted the shadows of her past and the weight of her mother's expectations. Suddenly, a thin layer of courage blossomed within her as she met her mother's gaze, searching for the affirmation she always craved. Would this moment solidify their reconciliation or pull them further apart? Would her vision of the future emerge from the tapestry of their entwined struggles or dissolve back into silence? Just then, a sharp voice cut through the gallery, a critique, piercing and loud, directed not at Emily, but the piece beside hers. The critic's words lingered in the air like weighted clouds. What they said could easily shift the atmosphere. The praise Emily sought, now a precarious balance on the edge of a knife. This was that moment, the one that would define their exchange. Did she possess the fortitude to embrace vulnerability in the face of public examination? Would recognition follow or dissolve into the void? As the critic's voice echoed in her mind, Emily felt an internal fracture emerged, daring her to confront not just her mother, but the very core of her artistic identity. The exhibition would not only reveal her artistic evolution, but lay bare the tumult of their relationship. Would she rise to encapsulate all that she had fought for, or would the judgment of others dim the light she was so desperately trying to illuminate? The stakes ballooned with every breath Emily took, and as she turned again to her mother, the question reverberated within her. Was this not only an unveiling of her art, but a moment to redefine who she was, and who they might become together? The tension in the gallery spiraled as Emily examined her mother's face for a hint of her reaction, splitting the moment into fragments of potential outcomes. The critic's voice, still hovering in the air, drew attention away from her piece, and a wave of anxiety washed over her. Would familiarity breed more judgment than understanding? "Mom," Emily finally exhaled, breaking the silence. "What do you really think?" Each word was charged, mirroring the raw intensity of her emotions. Her mother's expression contorted slightly, a mix of astonishment and something deeper, an acknowledgement of their shared history yet untouched by the light. "It's a lot to take in, Emily. Just look at how far you've come." This timid recognition was juxtaposed with her internal tension. Emily knew her mother's praise could be as fragile as the delicate lines of her composition. The damage of silence and misunderstanding loomed larger than any canvas could contain. Step by step she moved toward her mother, each footfall heavy with hopes and fears. "It's not just about beauty. It's my story, Mom." Everything I've experienced, I thought maybe you'd want to see me. In that second, pain shadowed her mother's eyes, an echo of battles fought and words unspoken over years of distance. Emily felt the urge to retreat, ready to rebuild old walls, but in that moment she held her ground, confronting not just her mother, but the obstacles that held them apart. "Emily," her mother said, the trembling of her voice betraying a barely contained vulnerability. I didn't know you felt this way. I just thought... Thought what? Emily challenged gently, realizing the scale of what lay before them. This wasn't solely about acceptance. It was an opportunity to unravel the tightly held fabric of their estrangement. Taking a step back, her mother appeared vulnerable for the first time. I thought I was doing what was best, making things easier for you. Emily shook her head. But you never saw me, not the real me beneath the surface. You only saw what you wanted. As the words hung between them, she drew upon her newfound resilience, threading through the complexities of their connection. The courage she had summoned to expose her vulnerabilities on the canvas now surged through her veins as she confronted the past in stark realities. What emerged was not only an evident struggle, but a confrontation with the identity she had desperately crafted. Each brushstroke on the canvas mirrored her life, each challenge a color pulled from the spectrum of human experience. This moment was ripe for discovery, the invulnerable meeting of fears and truths. The gallery noise faded into white noise as they stood on the precipice of something momentous. Emily dug deep, feeling the weight of her artistry meld seamlessly with the weight of her emotional baggage, pouring that heaviness into their exchange. Mom, it's time we told each other the truth, no matter how painful. I need to understand you, too. But as the last phrase rolled off her tongue, Emily sensed the presence of others shifting within the gallery, their conversations resuming as if they were spectral onlookers to this revelation. She could feel the eyes of strangers, critiquing not only her art, but also the bond she was attempting to forge with her mother, the very connection that had eluded them for years. Let's step outside, her mother suggested, but the anxiety fluttering in Emily's chest rose with a heavy thud. Could she risk the scrutiny of the crowd, prolonging this encounter that had become so deeply personal? I think I want to hold my ground, Mom, Emily declared, forcing the decision into the open. This wasn't simply about the art anymore. It was a declaration to herself. She was no longer the invisible girl that once sought validation. With clenched fists and a gaze that refused to yield, she faced her mother again as the critic's disparaging voice cut in once more, feeding into the tension. The choice stood before her. Would she allow external judgment to sever this tenuous breakthrough, or would she embrace the chance to transform vulnerability into strength? Mom, she said firmly, I need you to tell me what you really think, both about my work and about us. The air thickened, palpable with the weight of unresolved emotions. Every heartbeat seemed to heighten the stakes, catching the essence of an intervention neither could have anticipated, on the brink of a new definition. Would they emerge from this tapestry of fear and connection reborn, or would they slip back into their old roles, forever defined by their past? The moment crystallized into an open question, teetering precariously on the edge of resolution. In that charged space, her mother's features began to shift, revealing a deeper layer of understanding and apprehension. Would the truth breed unity, or further fracture their fragile tether? The air crackled with unanswered questions, leaving Emily poised for a revelation she could not yet foresee. Emily's heart raced as the moment stretched elastic, caught between what had been and what could be. The gallery, cloaked in a charged silence punctuated by murmurs of art enthusiasts, morphed into a battleground of emotion. Each fragment of the exchanged glances, disbelief, anticipation, sorrow, was a brushstroke on a canvas that remained unfinished. Mom, just tell me I'm ready, she insisted, her voice firming as it cut through the lingering uncertainty. This was no longer just about her art. It was a pivotal test of resilience and resolve, not only for herself, but for the fragile bond with her mother. She needed to break free of the chains that had held them apart, to usher in a new understanding. For a moment, her mother remained silent, her features etched in indecision. Emily felt the familiar pang of fear creeping in, threatening to claw at the edges of her newfound courage. What if they did not bridge the chasm between them? What if honesty shattered the last frail threads of their connection? With a deep breath, she steadied herself against the onslaught of questions, reminding herself that vulnerability led to growth. Your work? It's raw. It's painful, her mother finally began, her voice trembling as if she were navigating a tightrope of truth. But maybe that's what you needed to express. Maybe that's what I failed to see. Emily felt the warmth of recognition unfurl within her chest, and yet a flurry of emotions danced on the surface.
validation mingled with a sense of unease. But it's not just about pain, Mom. It's about the journey, the struggle to be seen. I've fought to craft this identity, and I want you to know that the struggle isn't something I hide anymore. It's part of who I am. Her mother's facade cracked a little further, revealing a glimmer of the woman Emily had yearned to understand. But I wanted to protect you. I thought keeping you away from the chaos would help.
I didn't realize that protection turned into suffocation. With each confession, the walls around them began to dissolve, revealing memories of laughter and love that had been overshadowed by misunderstandings. Emily saw the flicker of pain in her mother's eyes, a woman burdened by choices that had led them to this very moment. Mom, we're both here, standing in our own truths. I need you to embrace me fully, art and all, Emily urged, her determination strengthening. This was not just about achieving forgiveness. It was an invitation to carve a new path together, even if daunting. The atmosphere was heady with courage, and she felt the weight of the crowd's gaze becoming less oppressive, as if their judgment drifted into the background. In that charged moment, her mother finally met her eyes fully. I see you, Emily. I want to try. No, I will try to understand. A flush of hope surged through Emily, lighting a way forward in the darkened shadows of their past. This was the bridge they had both needed, a space of mutual vulnerability where pain and forgiveness could intertwine. But as the words hung in the air, a sudden question surfaced. Was this newfound understanding enough to confront the truth hidden even deeper within both of them? Would she braid her passion for art with her mother's lived experiences, or was there more at the core of their disconnection waiting for revelation? With her heartbeat echoing in her ears, Emily realized they stood at the threshold of something monumental. It was not just about healing. It was about reclaiming their identities, both as individuals and as family. Would they have the willingness to confront the deeper layers of their relationship, to dig even further until everything was laid bare? Emily swallowed hard, the tension in her gut spiraling into something both thrilling and terrifying. Mom, what about the reasons you felt you had to protect me? I think we have to address those too. The air crackled again with unspoken words, holding a volatile promise of transformation yet to unfold, each second brimming with potential, simmering close to the boiling point that could either push them apart or pull them closer together into something richer than before. Would they unravel the hidden truths of their past, or would silence win once more? As the air hung thick with tension in the gallery, Emily stood before her mother, resolved to press deeper into the conversation. This was not just an unveiling of art, it was an unveiling of hearts, hers and her mother's. The colors on the canvas didn't just represent Emily's journey, they embodied the complex layers of their relationship, each hue a pulse in the silent bond they shared. Mom, I can't hide anymore, Emily stated, her voice steady despite the whirlwind of emotions within her. If I'm going to be an artist, I can't just mask the pain that's tangled in my narrative, and I don't want you to either.
We have to confront what's kept us apart. Her mother's gaze faltered, the weight of years filled with unspoken words radiating between them. You have always been my strongest bond, yet the hardest to understand, she admitted quietly. I thought by keeping you away from the uncertainties of life, I was keeping you safe, but I see now it was suffocating. Emily nodded, feeling validation wash over her. She was realizing that her mother's intentions, though misguided, stemmed from the profound love, a love that now needed to adapt to the reality of her ambitions. I appreciate your love, but it's crucial for us to be transparent, she pressed, allowing courage to surge through her. Art is my path to healing and self-discovery. If I'm to flourish, I need your support, not just as a spectator, but as a participant in this dialogue between us. I can't be afraid of what it means anymore. The silence hung heavily again, but this time it felt less like a barrier and more like fertile ground waiting to be cultivated. Her mother's eyes glistened as she took Emily's words to heart. Then I need to expose my own fears, she replied, voice barely above a whisper. I've often let my own disappointments shape how I view your dreams. I thought protecting you meant drawing a line, but I see now perhaps I was only limiting us both. There was a palpable shift in the atmosphere around them,
and understanding starting to bridge the years of distance. For the first time, Emily felt the connection deepen, not defined solely by obligation, but shaped by shared dreams and honest reflections. "Let's not just talk about art," Emily ventured, her voice echoing with newfound confidence. "Let's talk about our dreams, Mom. What do you want?" The question hung, sprawling across both of their hearts. Her mother hesitated, taking a moment to gather her thoughts as a flicker of aspiration illuminated her features. "I always wanted to create something, anything. I had dreams of my own before life took over," she admitted candidly. "But I pushed them deep down because I felt it wasn't practical, nor a part of the survival we needed." Emily felt her heart swell. The admission marked a shift in their conversation. What if we could foster those dreams together? It was a suggestion laden with hope, throwing an invitation to co-create a shared future, crafted from transparency and vulnerability. In that moment, her mother's eyes opened wide, the realization dawning upon her. "You mean like working together? Exploring our passions?" "Yes," Emily exclaimed, feeling the rush of a new river of possibility flow between them. "What if our art connects us? What if it becomes our language?" As they stood in front of that vibrant canvas, both felt the new dynamic displace old insecurities. The artwork, adorned with strokes representing struggle and triumph, became a symbol of their evolving bond. They could define what it meant to be family, a tandem of dreams, thriving instead of strained.
With a sense of urgency, Emily continued, "Let's not wait for another moment. Let's plan a series for both our works, fuse our talents. I'll explore contemporary art, and you could share your creations. We could tell our shared stories together." The vision poured out, each word a brushstroke outlining a radiant new chapter. Tears brimmed in her mother's eyes, a mixture of sorrow and joy reflecting back years of complex emotions finally illuminated. "I never imagined this could happen. It felt impossible, yet here we are." Emily reached out, squeezing her mother's hand. "Art has always been our bridge, Mom, not a barrier. It's time we step across it together." At that moment, everything crystallized. They had transformed from guardian and dependent to creators united in a shared vision. It was a stunning epiphany, two dreams intertwined in a vibrant palette of possibility, now standing resolute in the face of what once divided them. As the gallery buzzed around them, Emily knew this was merely the beginning. Her art would not only evolve into a medium of self-expression, but also a pathway for reconciling their past, a legacy forged in brightness through honesty and courage. The tremors of fear that had once held her captive loosened their grip, replaced by the grounding certainty of connection. And in this newfound clarity, she felt an exhilarating sense of accomplishment wash over her. She had transformed from a girl hiding in shadows to a fierce artist ready to confront both her fears and realities, armed with the one person who understood her like no other, her mother. With that understanding sealed amongst them, the weight of ambition no longer felt like a burden, but a shared goal, a bond worth nurturing, worth expressing. They would embark on this journey together, unearthing the richness of their dreams as they painted the story of their lives, confidently moving forward along newly laid paths. As Emily looked at the canvas, she understood that this was the moment she had yearned for, not just acceptance, but a celebration of both their talents, an affirmation of who they were and who they would become. Together, they would not only conquer their fears, but create an artistry that bridged the gaps of yesteryears, forming a legacy wrapped in love and creativity. But now, dear viewer, we turn to you. This inspiring journey of transformation awaits your recognition. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss the next exclusive emotional stories. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show your appreciation for the stories of overcoming and connection. Comment your reactions and theories about Emily's journey and her art, and share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this uplifting conclusion. This is the moment to show your support and become part of our transformative community. Don't wait even one more second. Let's keep the conversation alive.